A hitman is on the verge of retirement and looking to live a quiet life. Instead, he finds himself on the receiving end of a hit by his own employer seeking to cash in on the pensions of aging employees. Hello, everyone. I'm Caleb Leger.
I'm Connor Eyzaguirre.
Welcome to an episode of Beyond the Bad. Today we'll be talking about the 2019 Netflix movie hot off the heels of the very successful John Wick franchise, Polar, a film which, like most Netflix films, seems to be made mostly to cash in on something super successful at the box office. And in this case, it was the aforementioned ongoing Fourth on the Way, which looks really badass as shit, John Wick franchise. And again, like most Netflix films, it kind of comes and goes without much fanfare, gets lost in algorithm. So with that, before we go any further, so I'll say forward, I'll shoot over to you for the score and why it's on here.
Yeah, Netflix, their original output is like original in name only sometimes. A lot of times it's just, something you've seen done better, just with a different color on it, and they try to pass it off as something fresh, and it never works. You can always tell. If you saw The Good Thing, and if you saw A Quiet Place, you recognize exactly what Bird Box is. If you saw John Wick, you know what Polar is. Like, we're not stupid. But this is what Polar's rocking on Rotten Tomatoes. We got a 17% critic score and a surprisingly high 69% audience score, which, if you've seen the movie, you know is pretty appropriate. The critics' consensus reads, an action thriller starring Mads Mikkelsen as the world's most dangerous assassin should be terrifically entertaining, but Polar proves it's possible to ruin anything if you try. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to go with them on that. Like, Mads Mikkelsen as the world's, most deadliest hitman, I'm in. You got to really try hard to fuck this up, and they tried awfully hard.
Yeah, it's on because we've talked about before how much we love Mads Mikkelsen. The guy's a very reliable actor. I would actually probably argue he's still like a character actor that just has been really, really successful.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, to be able to do even more outside of just character acting. But he's always a joy on camera. The man just always brings it, and apparently he can fuck, as this movie shows. So you were thinking like, oh, you know what? Yeah, it might be a John Wick clone, but you got him to lead. This could be something at least really, really fun. And boy, is it the exact opposite of that the entire time. So in general, for a lot of these movies I have to do on the show, I'm checking the run times a lot. It's almost once week just me hitting my remote going, oh my god, it's almost over. This is one of those I had I think it was up there Reefer Madness and fucking Freddy Got Fingered, where it was like a record for how many times I was hitting it, hoping it was getting closer and closer to the end.
Well, this thing especially is a clone of so many other films. Like, there's some John Wick, there's some Suicide Squad, there's a little bit of Logan in there. It's just they kept Frankensteining together a inferior movie based off things they figured people liked before, they'll like it here. And that's not how it works. You can't do that. I mean, you can, but you shouldn't do that.
No one's saying you can't. You just do better.
Yeah. Have some ethics, care about your work. Don't just, don't copy off the student in front of you. Try a little harder.
Well, and that also has to do a lot with the fact that Netflix has had a long history with quantity over quality.
Yeah.
They don't give a shit. They just want as much shit out as possible, which is if anyone's been paying attention to recent Netflix news, not paying off finally. It's finally biting them in the ass for a bunch of other shit going on with that company. But it's like, yeah, you guys keep pumping all this shit out, and you're becoming a point that you are the stream. We're actually HBO Max is coming in strong now, thanks to Warner Bros. Shit, as one of the probably worst streamers in this competition that's happening now, because you guys consistently deliver shit films no one wants to watch, whereas Disney Plus has proven reliable and proven quality, and Paramount Plus is kind of coming in strong with its content. Like, you have other streamers coming out that believe in quality over quantity, and Netflix is so stuck in its ways, other than its shows.
Well, I remember reading an article from, I think it was a couple months ago, or it might have been like a few weeks ago. Disney Plus is reporting more subscribers than Netflix for the first time, which is well, that's either good news or bad news, depending on who you work for.
Yeah, well, it's like I said again, they're hitting, Paramount Plus, Shutter, Disney Plus. These guys, they you're seeing that they listen to what the fans want, what is working for their service, and they're giving fans that. Shutter, if we've talked about it off camera, but they're bringing back something that horror fans are dying to see next month that we thought was gone when Bravo pretty much went away, and that is they are reviving the little thing called 101 Scariest Movie Moments. It's coming back, and they're doing it. They're doing things like that, right? They're doing a career, Career for Fear for a documentary on career horror. They're doing all this cool stuff for fans that draws people in. Paramount Plus has built its spine off of Star Trek, and that's been a boon for them. But they haven't rested on the laurels. They've been doing other shit. Like they recently, I've been watching it. They revived Beavis and Butthead, and it's actually pretty good. Like I've been watching the new season of it, and it's good. They even have Beavis and Butthead doing their thing where they're watching random pop culture stuff and making their jokes. And it's pretty funny. Disney Plus, obviously with the Star Wars content and the Marvel content, they're bringing it their A game to that. What they release even further, from themselves onto the streamer. Netflix though, it's so stuck in first the want to dump all the episodes at once. The other streamers have stopped doing that because they've been making better ends by doing weekly. Like that's why the Boys is huge numbers for Prime, and they do it weekly. If anyone who wasn't reading up on what was going on with House of the Dragon, it crashed on fucking Fire Stick. So many people were watching it. So like they're just stuck in a way that while it was successful for them when they came out, it's not so successful anymore, and they do not want to budge.
Well, and also the way that Netflix registers like numbers for their shows is they don't take into account people who watch these episodes at their own pace. They're only counting completionists. They're only counting people who've watched the full season, which is insane. Like, no wonder they're not greenlighted. No wonder they're not seeing other things that aren't Stranger Things as successes, because they're not giving people enough time to watch this shit. Like, not everybody binges an entire TV season in 2 days. Some people like to pace it. That doesn't mean they're not watching it. It just means they're not watching it as fast as everybody else. So you can't, that's how, it just bothers me how they count that shit.
Yeah. Well, and like recently, they released the final season of Lock and Key. Apparently it came out like a Tuesday. I didn't watch it till the weekend, and that's because I was watching other stuff. I wanted to play some of my video game. I Am Groot had come out. I wanted to watch that, even though content wise, it doesn't really add much to the MCU. But hey, it was adorable. I have zero regrets watching I Am Groot. Just because Baby Groot, if I'm being honest. Those other shows I wanted to watch, and then I did finally start watching, and it took me the whole weekend. Like 8 episodes took me all weekend to really sit down and watch. And that was after a while me being like, okay, let me finish this so I got nothing else on my plate when other shit comes out. So this is done. It's kind of getting to that point where even if I'm like, oh, I need to watch this as soon as I can. So another Netflix show doesn't come out, and I got another one on top of what I need to watch. Like, yeah, it's just like they went from being like, it's weird that they're kind of becoming a blockbuster. You know what I mean? Like they roll the new dogs on the block. They showed Blockbuster what's up. And like, no, people do want to do this. And now it's like they're becoming that. They don't want to admit to change. They don't want to confirm to change. But like, maybe if we change some things, we'll get the numbers again.
Either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Yeah.
Harvey Dent was right.
If they were literally like, we're not going to change. We're going to crack down on password sharing and continue to release shows seasons all at once.
Yeah, it's interesting to see the studio just become kind of a shell of its former self. Yeah. But, otherwise, if they had a little bit of integrity and were a little bit more selective, we wouldn't have this delightful train wreck to talk about tonight.
No, and what I'm glad to be sure on them, because the question, this really makes my question great, which is, even though we've just shared on Netflix a lot on this episode in the past, Do you, sir, think there is at least something to be said positively for their strategy to release films like this?
Yeah, I definitely do. I mean, they're not all duds. There's a lot of Netflix original films that I think are great. Like come award season, they pull out all the stops and they care about every project. There's been some epic films that have come out on Netflix between September and January. Like, Mank, Marriage Story, Roma, Mudbound, The Irishman. Like, it's not, I mean, granted, I wish they would pay that much attention the rest of the year. But I also like that they do give people some opportunities to get some work off the ground, which is pretty cool. I think that if you're pitching something to Netflix, you have a much better, chance of getting a green light than if you're pitching it to Disney, because Disney has a vetting process, and I honestly don't think Netflix does. But yeah, I like some of their stuff. I dislike a lot more of it, but there are some good movies out there that I'm glad people were able to have made because of Netflix's quantity over quality bottom line.
Yeah. I will say for all the shit we gave them, you kind of hit it where it says like, and we've talked about this before and how I feel about like people when it comes to obviously the theater experience and what studios are willing to produce and not produce, right? We always talk about like they will only essentially 9 times out of 10, they will only do the safe bet of something that is a franchise attached, like it has a built-in fan base. Whereas the studios will take risks, or it's the streamers, sorry, especially Netflix will take those risks. Like I said, they will greenlight anything that comes away. So they will give a lot of like, first time directors a start. It's a chance to get a project off the ground. And those we can't consider mid-tier films or more original films, when they're not trying to cash in on something like this, they do some pretty every so often good original stuff that you're not gonna get in theater because it's just not that kind of award anymore, unfortunately. Um
Yeah, that's true. The mid tier film has pretty much been delegated to streaming status these days. It's blockbusters rule the big screen now. So if you want to watch something a little bit smaller, this is where you got to go. And I don't see anything wrong with that. I mean, as long as I have the access to watch these movies, I'm okay.
Yeah, and it has worked out in the past with this past year and stuff like for them like I didn't watch it yet. I've heard a lot of people like it, but obviously the audience hit that was Red Notice on Netflix. That was a huge audience hit. So that worked for them. Obviously, we were big fans of their take on Texas Chainsaw Massacre. They say it's something that the studio was clearly getting ready to be like, yeah, no, we're not releasing this to theaters, and they were like, hey, we'll buy it because they knew this is a boon for us. We can get this. And they did, and they put it out, and that was awesome to have the chance to watch it. I still would love to see it in theaters, but the fact that I could still watch the film,
Yeah,
was amazing.
Well, and also like it's not like they're that different from every other studio. No studio has an impeccable track record of releasing only masterpieces. Every studio has their shit films and their great films. Netflix just has a lot more of both because they are willing to give everything a chance. And that's a good thing sometimes, it's a bad thing sometimes. It's really all about how you look at it and what's coming out at the time.
Yeah. So yeah, I would say we're in agreement in that. We show them a lot, but thankfully, and not just Netflix, but the streamers in general, to me, have essentially saved the mid tier film, saved the up and coming filmmaker, the indie filmmaker from getting potentially just not having a voice anymore because of the way the studio system works.
Yeah.
They have helped a lot in that regard, both for obviously movies and TV shows. I think if there's one thing Netflix has a decent to good track record on, it's their shows. A lot of their shows tend to be huge hits. I know obviously the big one right now people are talking about is Strange Things because it just came out with its new season. But The Witcher was a huge hit for them. Obviously, Lock and Key went on for 3 seasons. At the very beginning of it, before the scandal happened with Kevin Spacey, their first hit with House of Cards, Orange is the New Black. Like they've had a string of like acclaimed TV shows, and that part can't be denied either.
Well, and also, I mean, regardless of how you feel about Netflix, you've got to give them props for being the ones to pioneer this complete change in the way we view entertainment. I mean, they're the ones who created the streaming service. So at the end of the day, they'll always be there first. And, you got to give them props for that. I mean, we wouldn't have so much if these guys hadn't taken that plunge. So I will give them credit for that, but
yeah,
there are some shit films on there.
Credit where credit is due. I just wish they'd have a little bit more of the Hulu approach of quality over quantity. Again, Hulu's not perfect. There's plenty I don't watch them, but they've had a good year so far between like Fresh. I think it was like No Exit was the one I'm thinking of, where they go to that. Yeah, the No Exit, Fresh, Prey recently. It looks like Hellraiser. If that could potentially be a huge hit for them now that they finally got a release date for it. So they believe probably Vacation Friends was good. So I just wish to do that where it's like at least then I'd be able to remember the hits more than I do the misses.
That's true. I'd say a good 40% of our potentials list for this show are Netflix original movies.
Yes. But again, I figured, we drag on them a lot. That's how I had a different question in mind. I was like, well, what? We should on Netflix. Let me ask this.
Nice. I like that question. Yeah, it's nice to kind of reaffirm where we stand on things like that.
Yeah. So with that, we will go ahead unless you got more to add. I'll go ahead and move on to Development Hell. One, because so this is gonna be short this week, but with that, we got something real exciting as soon as I'm done with Development Hell. Cooked up. We'll reveal it here in a second. But let's go on and go through this real quick. So this is actually based off a 2012 webcomic of the same name. But again, many adaptations as we've seen with MCU, definitely the DC universe. There's some differences between the two mediums. In the comics, it was known for its lack of dialogue and speech bubbles, and it had a somewhat minimalistic style and color. Basically, they used stark black, white, and orange as the three primary colors. So very stylized comic, which is the movie does try to be and fails miserably. Dialogue and speech bubbles apparently would get added later on when Dark Horse picked up the webcomic to put in like actual print editions. I think they get added then, but I don't think even then it was a whole lot. In October of 2014, a live action adaptation was announced as a joint development between Dark Horse Entertainment, the ones who picked up the comic rights, and Constantine Film. They're a major, as anyone who knows that, they're a major player with a lot of indie films. From there, pretty smooth ride. There's no hiccup. People got announced. Like most Netflix films, they put out a date, they cast people, they met that date. To Netflix's credit, we didn't talk about that too much, but like we said, they are one of the best when it comes to saying like, hey, this one's coming out, and it fucking comes out on that date.
That's become so important to me lately because of a certain mega studio's constant string of fuck ups.
WB. Just saying. So yeah, to Netflix credit, they're like, the state comes out. I don't know how they avoided issues, but they did. With that, like most Netflix films though, it would get released in 2019 to pretty negative reviews and would get lost within the algorithm by the audience.
Yeah. Makes sense. I watched it just because I'll add shit to my list that just sounds interesting, and if I see an actor there I like, I'm like, oh, okay. Mads Mikkelsen, add. And I watched it and I'm like, I hope I never have to watch this piece of shit again. Flash forward 2 years. Here we are.
Yeah, that's how I feel sometimes. Some movies I make the schedule and I'm sitting there going, why don't I make myself watch this movie again?
Yeah, I just keep thinking of Knoxville in Jackass as being like, come on, it's content. That's how we keep moving forward on this show. It's content. Come on.
Content. Quick side note, I saw a recent clip of Bam Margera apparently getting done a year-long stint in rehab. And he did I guess Steve-O has a podcast he does. So of course he does. And he was interviewing Bam, and good luck. Bam's never come back to Jackass. I quickly noticed how he took no fucking blame for his firing whatsoever. It was all their fault, not his fault.
That sucks. Sucks that he let substance abuse get in the way of some lifelong friendships and a spot on a very successful TV and film franchise.
Yes. Okay, well, and Steve-O brought that up because he's like, apparently Steve-O almost had him convince him to get him back into the new movie. Like he was rooting for him because he's like, dude, I really, we want you in this movie, but you gotta prove yourself. Like, we want you. Like, he apparently was like writing stuff for him, saying like, say this, do this, it'll get you back in. And then apparently they were Knoxville and Spike Jones and Tremaine set up a meeting, like a Zoom meeting, be like, hey, you make the Zoom meeting, that will be the decision on if you're gonna be in the movie or not. And he fucking missed it. So they went, okay. And Steve-O told me, was like, what were they supposed to do? Like, you missed it. And then bam, again, he's like, well, I didn't have a computer. I was rushing to my friend's house. And Steve-O goes, dude, you were put on Instagram the night before that you were loaded, that you were wasted. They saw that. What does that tell them?
Shit. I gotta watch that podcast.
Yeah. So yeah,
and this is all relevant because Knoxville's in this movie.
It is. I just had to do this quick aside because I forgot before recording. You get a fun little thing about Bam's current status for those who are wondering. And then yeah, he brought up, you gotta stop the drinking and stuff. And literally, Bam goes, I don't know why the drinking and drugs are an issue when during Jackass 2, you guys were high fiving me and like everyone was high fiving me and like we were being supplied alcohol and like it was, encouraged. And Steve was like, dude, Jackass 2 was our heyday. Like that was the height of it for us. And it's much different now. It's like he's like, dude, that's not us anymore. It's like that was 20 years ago. Like it's a lot more serious now. We're older, we can't be doing that. He goes, eventually it's not fun anymore.
Yeah. Sounds like he's, Bam didn't grow up. He still thinks he's that, 20-year-old invincible, idiot.
Yeah. I'm like, so yeah, quick side, basically, Bam, good luck getting back because he will not admit his fault. He doesn't want to grow up. The Ryan Dunn thing permanently affected him for life, as far as I'm concerned. It just permanently affected him. And the other guys, to their credit, they are admitting, hey, we're in our 50s. Like, we're not what we used to be.
I love they say that, and then they, Knoxville blasts himself out of a fucking cannon with angel wings. It's like, yeah, we're mature now. We've grown up.
I love when, Chris Pine is, people are wondering what would Jackass be like when we're in our 50s. Well, it's definitely going to be more mature. That's for sure.
I love when Steve-O was like, it's okay if you get concussions before you're 50. Like, you can just bounce off that. And Knoxville's 49, so we're good. Anyway, yeah, I always love having a good Jackass check-in.
Yes, I forgot to tell you that earlier, but yeah, that's the latest on that whole fucking debacle. But luckily, Bam did at the end of it. He did say, like, look, I'm just not coming back. It's the best thing that could have happened to me. I'm like, yeah, for the wrong reasons, but you know what? Fine. At least you're fucking saying something.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't get to, get horrifically terrible tattoos on his balls or get thrown off a building or get trampled by bulls. I mean, poor him.
I'll almost get his dick ripped off.
Yeah.
As we contract as 4.5.
Get gallons of pig cum dropped on him. Yeah, I can't imagine a worse hell.
But
he doesn't get to do that anymore.
Yeah, and get paid pretty well for it. Oh, there we go. Netflix. It's this tie-in. If you want to watch Jackass 4.5 for whatever weird reason, it's not on Paramount Plus. It's on Netflix.
Yeah, I don't get that either. Weird.
That did segue back wonderfully. But with that, back to Polar. So that's all. That's all I got. So a quick week on Polar.
Somebody needs to do like some deep dive, talk to some people in production and find out how they like production stories. I want some juice. Something happened? Like people were there, people did stuff, a movie came out of it. There has to be stories somewhere.
Well, there's never a story for a Netflix at it. Unless you look up a TV show, you'll have like the longest fucking production histories on their TV show, but not on their shows. So with that, since it's been a long time, since there's not much on this, it's been a while since we've done a list. I want to find out for a list, and it has to do with comic books because this is, as we saw, based off a comic book essentially. stretched it based off a webcomic, but I'll take what I can take. And that is our top 5 worst comic book adaptations. So, with that, in the spirit of all of our times we do this, I'll start with you.
So, comic book adaptations, I took this a little bit differently, is not top 5 worst comic book movies. I went with, comic book adaptations. So like situations where the source material was like ignored or just destroyed or erased or, just forgotten. So these are my top 5. Number 5 is 2003's The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Okay. That's not on mine. Maybe because I've only seen the film once and I was a kid.
Now, I want to preface, I actually really like this movie. I enjoy it. I liked it as a kid. I think it's a fun ride. But if you hate it, I absolutely get it. The source material was butchered for this movie. For starters, the team leader, I believe in the comics, is Mina Harker. And in the movie, it's Alan Quartermain, played by Sean Connery, because the production was like, a woman team leader, the hell you say. So that didn't happen. Also, there were no Americans on the team in the comics, and the studio felt there needed to be an American on the team, or American audiences wouldn't give a fuck. So they shoehorned Tom Sawyer into this team. People didn't like that. So basically, it was just taking a beloved comic book series, another Alan Moore project that the studios ripped to shreds, and giving a movie that is just going to irritate fans and upset them. And the production was so fucking insane, it convinced Sean Connery to quit acting altogether, which he held to for, till the day he died.
Also, all the way to his death.
Yeah. So while it's a favorite of mine, a personal favorite of mine, I acknowledge that it's not a good movie at all. And I totally understand why everyone fucking hates that movie. But, I saw it when I was a kid, and stuff you see when you're a kid sticks in your head, and you have trouble admitting it's terrible when you're an adult.
Oh, yeah. There's plenty of films like that for me. One that did stand the test time, I watched it recently, which is a personal reason I'm not going to discuss on the recording right now. Small Soldiers holds up.
Small Soldiers is a fucking masterpiece. I'll fight people who say that's not a good movie.
Yeah, I watched it last time. I was like, it was like my pick, essentially my pick for a film. I was like, let me pick something we can all watch. And I picked that, and I was like, God, this film still holds up. It's wonderful.
Yeah. I think it's funny that Joe Dante was able to just remake Gremlins and nobody really batted an eye.
Yeah. Also, I didn't catch it, but when they were sharing at the beginning of the movie, when she gives them the passwords they're supposed to keep secret, and David Cross loudly he goes, "Huh, mine's Gizmo." As a kid, I never saw Gremlins right past my head. Now I was like, hey.
I love that, and I love that Sarah Michelle Gellar was uncredited as the like Barbie knockoff.
I thought I was like, that sounds like Sarah Michelle. I was like, I know that voice because I've had a crush on that woman since I was a kid. My parents watched, my mom watched Buffy.
And all the soldiers are like the Dirty Dozen or something. Like they're all old timey like soldier actors from the 60s, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah. So yeah,
there's a lot to love about that movie.
Oh yeah, still holds up. Great film. That's my shout out for that. But and actually, before I do my number 5, for the fans that are mad about that movie adaptation that you love so much, it was announced not too long ago. I think like maybe a month or two ago that they are re-looking at the comic and doing a new adaptation that's supposed to be more true to the comic. So there is a new adaptation on the way.
That was announced like 2 years ago.
It was like a month ago. Shut up. All right.
I gave up on that a long time ago.
It's on the way. Look, it's like winter. It's coming. Okay. Okay. So for mine, I didn't stretch it quite like that. I really just picked the 5 that just seethed me with rage and anger.
Fair enough.
Not good movies in general. So for my number 5, with that said, The Amazing Spider-Man 2. I know what people are saying. You could have gone 3. You could have gone Amazing Spider-Man 1, and you're not wrong. But like Connor said, I actually don't completely hate Spider-Man 3, much like League. Saw it when I was a kid. I was in love with the first 2 films as a kid. I don't love Spider-Man 3, but I don't hate it like everyone else does. So there's things I do like about it. And I stand by that. Amazing Spider-Man 1 is at least an okay film. 2, though, butchers any type of storyline they're trying to tell from the comics. by doing exactly what people did not like about Spider-Man 3. Literally, the second film into your rebooted franchise. Like, they did the first one and went, okay, we get it. People don't want too much. It took one sequel for them to just go, let's give it all. That's what they want. It worked well the first time. You don't have to reboot this franchise at all. And they did it, and any sort of like trying to adapt characters like Green Goblin or what the fuck they were adapting. Honestly, I am so confused. It was Green Goblin or Hobgoblin because it felt like a hodgepodge of both into one.
It was supposed to be Green Goblin, but it was so shoehorned in. Like there was no, you didn't buy the like lifelong friendship between Peter and Harry that the Raimi films actually established quite well. It was terrible.
Yeah.
All the emotional weight got sucked out because everything was so damn rushed and forced.
Yeah, they rushed and forced it, and the only thing I'll give this film credit that I thought was the only thing handled well was the death of Gwen Stacy from the comics.
Mm-hmm.
That mostly got handled well, thanks in large part recently. Spoilers for those who have yet to see the biggest sensation to hit theaters in recent memory. It gets that through line gets covered in Spider-Man No Way Home, and there's a good payoff to that. But yeah, I won't. Yeah, my big thing with this is that if you're talking adaptations, it doesn't feel like one because they're just taking different comics, taking what they want, and fucking just throwing it up onto the screen and hoping you enjoy it. And again, keep in mind the reason we got Amazing Spider-Man was because people were like, "There's too much going on in Spider-Man 3. There's too many villains for this movie." They said, "Cool, copy that." They fucking kicked out Sam Raimi. They kicked out Tobey Maguire. They rebooted it. People were like, okay, we kind of now it's a little weird, but let's see how this goes with Amazing Spider-Man 1. And then literally the sequel, they went Elektra, which is a terrible representation in this film. Fucking Rhino, Green Goblin, like they just were like, it's like Sinister Six is like, did you guys not want a fucking thing? It took one movie for you to just forget and go, let's do it again.
Yeah, that was the beginning of Sony's obsession with getting a Sinister Six movie off the ground, which they've yet to give up. They're still trying to do that. Yeah, I hated how Gwen was just kind of like he mourned for like 3 days, and he was like, "All right, time to be Spider-Man again. Let's do this." Like, I didn't feel like she got a proper send off. Paul Giamatti's Rhino was embarrassing, and then Jamie to turn like Electro into like a whiner who's like, nobody, Spider-Man didn't come to my birthday party, so I'm going to destroy this city. Like, what the fuck happened there? And Jamie Foxx, I do not blame him at all. He killed it, but I'm glad he got to do justice to the character in No Way Home. But yeah, Amazing Spider-Man 2 is the worst Spider-Man movie.
Oh, without a doubt. I will fight anyone that tries to tell me Spider-Man 3. Like, Spider-Man 3, at least to me, has some saving graces, and Sam Raimi's style still shines. Yeah. But
I've gotten over my beefs with Spider-Man 3. I've accepted it is what it is. It's got some insanely good moments. I love the, Harry and Peter teaming up to take on Sandman and Venom at the end. I thought that was awesome, and it felt earned. I like that. Like, there's some great moments in Spider-Man 3.
Well,
I don't really.
Well, so that's because he felt like that was one of the storylines that he actually wanted.
Yeah.
Was that he didn't want Venom, he wanted Sandman. That's why to me, like people always bitch about Venom in that movie. Like, well, Sam Raimi didn't want Venom. Like the studio was forcing him to put that in.
You recut that movie without Venom, and I'm sure it's a flawless ending.
Oh, I'm sure if they had let Sam Raimi do this thing, it would have been the perfect trilogy.
Yeah. Damn. Well, I agree with you. Amazing Spider-Man 2, good call. My number 4 is the very first movie we ever covered on this podcast, Batman and Robin.
I purposely avoided that movie because I was like, it's too easy, and Carter might put it on his list anyway.
Yeah, it is. It's low-hanging fruit, but it's got to be said. It's the lowest we've ever seen Batman. It's like nothing's ever going to eclipse that shit show. And yeah, as far as adaptations of the work go, I mean, every Batman fan in 1997 wanted to kill Joel Schumacher and George Clooney for this travesty. And yeah, I watch it now for laughs. I think it's hilarious. But It's a terrible Batman movie and a terrible comic book adaptation and a ridiculous waste of money. So, yeah, that's all I got on Batman and Robin. You want to hear my full thoughts? Check out episode 1 of Beyond the Bed.
Yeah, I don't want to go too into this because we talked about this pretty in depth for our first episode doing this off ground, but like the fact that this was because this is a film I own because I just own all the Batman movies. Well, minus the Batman, I still need to pick that one up. I'm getting bad as I get older. We're getting like the newer releases because I'm like, it's gonna be on the streamers anyway.
I know. I gotta check myself with that shit too.
Yeah, it's yeah. But anyway, I have it, I own it, and so a lot of times when we do these episodes beyond the bad, when I own it, I I try to dig through the bonus features for a little extra stuff, and going through that, like it was very evident in my research as like this was not made to be a film, this was made to sell toys, and it
Yeah.
fucking shows the whole time. The only person I will not trash in that film is Arnold Schwarzenegger because it seems like he had a grand time just saying puns the whole movie.
He got to say dumb shit. He got to be a Batman villain. He made like $30 million. He had the time of his life. It destroyed everybody else's career, but he followed it with like what I think like Jingle All the Way. So he was fine.
He was doing great.
Yeah, nothing can bad movies. Being the governor, Scandal with a Secret Child. Nothing stops the A Train. So, yeah, I get it.
He really is the Terminator in real life. Nothing can stop him.
Yeah.
He just keeps coming. All right. But good call. If you do want to hear our full thoughts, so like you can episode 1 be on the bed for Batman and Robin. So with that, my number 4, a film we have not covered on this, and I tried the day I put it on this fucking thing. And that is 2019's Hellboy.
Ooh, I've not seen this one because I heard it was dog shit.
This is a movie that I have learned through some veiled messaging from Neil Marshall is a studio fucking hack job. He does not have a lot of good things to say about this movie. And there's a reason you've seen him doing more indie stuff and why his recent announcement for his film is exciting because I don't think I told you. His new film is a return to Dog Soldiers to Descent type of horror. So,
I'm in.
in a weird way, this had to happen because I'm getting the Neil Marshall I want back anyway. So it kind of worked out in that regard. But with that, as far as the film itself, fact of the matter is, people wanted fucking Hellboy 3. Well, a very large cult audience wanted Hellboy 3. I think, unfortunately, not big enough to get it made based off studio's eyes. But that's what they wanted. Ron Perlman was on board, obviously, and Del Toro was dying to get it made. But didn't. Instead, we got this movie, which it's fun. I think this one hurts because I was actually really on board. I'm like, look, if I'm gonna get Hellboy 3, we're getting a reboot. It's gonna be rated R. Like, cool, let's do this. I'm a Stranger Things fan, so I'm a big fan of David Harbour because of it. I really like his character on there. I thought, okay, he's good on Stranger Things. He's a good actor. He might be able to crush this role. Went to go see it in an empty theater with a friend I dragged, and I feel bad I dragged him to go see it now. Because we both sat there just stunned silence at what was being thrown on the screen at us. It's like literally they took, again, just like how Spider-Man 2, man, they just took all these fucking comic runs of the character and just said, let's do this, and then we're going to transition to this comic that talks about this part of the storyline, and then it's like they didn't just pick a comic and go with that. It was like multiple different fucking comic runs squeezed into one film. And to hear more about how I feel about that with a certain upcoming episode that we had to reschedule thanks to a film that's now not fucking dated. Fuck you, WGB. But they did that, and then David Harbour. Oh my god, it's one of those whiny performances where I'm like, after a while, I was like, I remember leaving the theater, I wanted something to be like, shut the fuck up. You're just sounding like you're whining the whole movie. Like, where is fucking Hopper in this performance, man? Give me that. Like, Talk me a whiny fucking Hellboy. Holy shit.
I would just like to point out real quick, Hellboy 2, The Golden Army had a budget of $85 million, grossed $168 million. To me, that is a success. That is a success worthy of a trilogy capping sequel.
I'm assuming you're one of the many fans that's pissed that you never got Hellboy 3.
You're goddamn right I am. I've been a Del Toro supporter my whole life. Hellboy is my favorite movie he's ever done. And after I saw Hellboy 2, I was like, I can't wait to see Hellboy versus the Apocalypse, which is clearly where we were going.
I prefer Hellboy Going Army over Hellboy 1. Going Army kicks ass. And Hellboy 1's great. I really enjoy it, but Going Army kicks ass so much.
They're both on pretty even ground for me. I love them both. I didn't watch the new one partially out of a little bit, some loyalty, but also everyone said it was shit. And then when you told me it was shit, I was like, okay, I'm never watching this. So until it shows up here, I will not be watching Hellboy.
Yeah. I like how, like, for you, it's like if I actually just straight up admit a movie is shit, you're just like, oh, okay.
Well, there's certain, like, with you and Austin, I value your guys' opinion on certain genres. So, like, if you tell me a horror movie is shit, I know it's shit. If Austin tells me that, like, an Oscar-nominated film is shit, then I know it's shit. Like, I trust you guys in your zones. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I like the way you word that with me, though, because you know the type of horror films I do enjoy, and you're like, if you even think it's bad, I'm staying away from.
It's a safe bet. I mean, I could be wrong every once in a while, but I think it's a safe bet to just, fold that one. So
yeah. Well, you won't like this. This movie is pretty trash. It's bad.
I had a feeling, yeah, which is a shame because it did look exciting. So
the trailers were promising. And also, a quick sign up, my favorite Del Toro film, and it's not just because I've seen it like now 3 goddamn times this week. Again, for reasons I won't discuss on here. Pacific Rim. It's a fucking shame that wasn't as successful as it should have been.
I always forget that was a Del Toro movie.
I
don't know. It just doesn't feel like his. It's more commercial than his stuff, but it is good.
Keep that in mind. Keep what you just said in mind. But watch it again and tell me you so don't see a bad Del Toro in it. Keep that. Shove what you just said right up your ass a little bit.
I didn't mean it as a negative. It just personally, it just felt less, weird than a lot of his other work.
Right, but I'm saying, like, I get what you're saying, but I watch it again and you can tell in the cinematography and the color scheme and stuff like that, it's fucking Del Toro 100%. Especially because, like, all he wanted to make was a movie about robots. He's like a child. He was like, I want to see robots fight monsters and I want this film made right now. He made it.
I think that was some of his, like, post Hellboy 3 anger. Just be like, all I want is big robots and big monsters. Leave me alone.
And give me the guy from Cincinnati.
I deserve something today. Yeah, I bet that was a little bit of that.
Right. So, like, he didn't want for the cast. He's like, I want Idris Elba and the guy from Cincinnati. Okay, if you give me that, I'll be fucking satisfied. How's that sound? And Ron Perlman. Can't be Hellboy.
Call Ron. We got a job.
I'll start really like It's Always Sunny. So if we can get Charlie Day on here, we'll tat him up.
Yeah, it's been a minute since I watched Pacific Rim. I like it. It's been a while though.
I've seen it quite a bit this week, and I will say it does hold up. It's still a lot of fun.
Nice. My number 3 is a superhero movie that completely derailed a promising career because he refused to take responsibility for anything, and the studio threw his ass under the bus. 2015's Fantastic Four.
I have more to say. You say your piece. I got so much more to say. You saw my rant review.
My number 1 and 2 pissed me off to a level I didn't know was possible. I knew this movie was going to suck, so I wasn't as burned as I was with the first 2, with my number 1 and 2. But yeah, Josh Trank is no more because he made this and he blamed the studio, probably pretty rightfully, for fucking up his movie. But you don't do that because that means, to quote, Hollywood parodies, you'll never work in this town again. But this movie's an absolute bag of shit. It's barely a Fantastic Four movie. All the whimsy is drained out of it. They fucked up Doctor Doom for the third goddamn time. And it's an embarrassment. I don't even really remember what it was about. I Everyone is miscast. I I don't know who this was for. I don't know why anybody like involved didn't have a moment of like, oh my god, why am I here? Uh, it's probably the worst comic book movie of all time. I think at this point, like at least Batman and Robin has like its joke followers. No one's watching Fantastic Four 2015 for any reason.
Yeah, it. Actually, I'm not going into detail, but yes, because it's on. We have overlap, but mine is later on this movie.
Okay, I had a feeling.
It was like one of the first ones I thought of immediately. So with that, I'll just go into my number three. Don't know. There's a good chance these top three could be overlap films because I know we kind of hate. We have a shared hatred on some of these comic book movies. For me, my number three is the first attempt at the Suicide Squad.
Nearly made my list, but didn't quite get there.
Didn't quite get there. Okay, cool. So we can have a good discussion on this one right now in this moment. Um, this movie looked pretty damn promising when they first advertised it. I remember thinking like, okay, cool. And I was not really on board with Batman v Superman. I wasn't really fucking into the movie. Man, it's still I stand by it. You take away that tone, could have been a really good fucking movie. Um, but I remember seeing this going, okay, this could work. Like it's Suicide Squad, you can get away with it being dark. There's a really good cast here. I'm down. Then there's the trouble starting. There's rumors of them CO stepping in, WB, infamous WB now, stepping in because of Guardians of the Galaxy had come out and they wanted a Guardians of the Galaxy. So then we got this recut trailer that promised a completely different fucking movie. And I was like, okay, what's going on here? I dumbly, due to my love for the movie Requiem for a Dream, supported the fact that they cast Jared Leto. I was like, dude, if anyone's going to fucking ace this Joker, it's him. I don't know who to blame in this finished product, but he is awful as the fucking Joker. I don't know if it's writing, the direction, the studio hack job, cutting out a ton of his scenes, or his performance. I would like to think that now between this and Morbius, it's 100% his fucking performance. The guy needs to just stay away from comic book movies, and I don't know why I had to hear that he's in the haunted fucking mansion that shit coming out. I guess you know that one. But yeah, this the end product movie. Holy God. Um, Worst iteration or worst live action recreation of the Suicide Squad I have witnessed in my life. Um, the most bland protagonist and Enchantress not really doing anything and having all these weird minions that don't make a lot of sense. Half of the squad is fucking forgettable besides a couple of characters. Killer Croc looks horrendous. That is some of the worst makeup effects I've seen in my life. He looks like shit. King Shark looks better than him in the Suicide Squad, the better movie. Um the good one. Um some positives I will say. This might be controversial to say now because of a recent thing this year, but Will Smith as Deadshot, I did like him as Deadshot. I liked Margot Robbie. I'm glad she had a very successful career or tenure with Harley Quinn because I know it's kind of up in there if she'll be back or as a character or not. Um,
Oh, that's not up in the air anymore. That's done. Like she's being replaced by Lady Gaga, and she's not happy about that.
no offense to Lady Gaga, great actress. I won't take that from her, but Margot Robbie was crushing Harley Quinn in my opinion.
It was really just shitty of them to do that, do her dirty
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, because I would argue that all of the things she did with that character after this way better than Suicide Squad. But she was really good. Even if you, it's even though it's kind of obvious, a dude that wants to bone Margot Robbie directed this film because we get that gratuitous shot of her putting on everyone just staring. It's like, oh, okay. Um, Very obviously it was female forward and future iterations. of the character. But yeah, it's just like in the plot, it's so goddamn boring in this movie. Like I did not care. Yeah, this was terrible. Like this was a bad take for our first time seeing the suicide, like one of DC's most well known properties, Suicide Squad. Like everyone wants a Suicide Squad movie, and they butchered the shit out of it for their first go on. Luckily, we had a great second film thanks to James Gunn and DC's backing the fuck up and saying, do your thing. Because of it, we had a great second film and a great spin-off series in Peacemaker. So thank God. But this first film, oh my God.
Yeah, this was a bummer because at that point, Batman v Superman had already come out, and that was the big one of that year, and we were already like, God damn it! Like, and now Suicide Squad was supposed to be like, well, at least this is going to be cool. We got this to look forward to. And I remember I quit Draft House like a week early, so I wouldn't have to work Suicide Squad, so I could just go watch it. And what a fucking disappointment! I mean, this movie wanted to be Guardians of the Galaxy so bad, but it didn't have the camaraderie, didn't have the writing, didn't have the direction, and didn't have the cast. I didn't like that they had this whole like all of a sudden we're family now thing that just came out of nowhere towards the end of the movie. It's like when did this happen? You guys have hated each other the whole movie. All of a sudden now you're family. God damn it. So yeah, it's just it's a rushed movie with a terrible villain, and yeah, Joker gets sidelined, but I'm kind of thankful for that now because Jared Leto was so goddamn miscast.
Yeah, it's just a weird performance. And then you get someone like David Ayer who doesn't have a bad track record. Like I remember when they added him as director, I'm like, he could pull this off. He's done ensemble films that are really good before. Like he can pull this off, and especially what they are going with, this is his style of film. Yeah. But then you had all the production issues that kind of were happening. The fact that I'll never get the whole like getting on stage and the first thing you say is fuck Marvel. I'm like, well, calm down. They're more successful than you there, bud. Like none of your films crack the top 10 highest grossing films of all time. A good chunk of theirs do.
Well, and also, most of them are good. That's a big one.
Yeah. So I'm like, let's calm your britches. So I was trying to start something that was unnecessary because Marvel was winning already. Still is. So it was like a weird release, like lead up to release, and yeah, then we got what we got, and I was like, oh, okay, this is pretty trash. So
for me, like, the olive in the shit sandwich was that year at the Oscars, Suicide Squad took home best makeup. Like, did you people even watch the fucking movie? Like you pointed out, the makeup is horrendous. Like, how did that happen?
Did they see Killer Croc the same way I did? Because he looked fucking terrible.
I don't know. It beat Star Trek Beyond, which had I figured that was the one to beat. Well done on the makeup there. And I don't remember the other film because I was so fucking flabbergasted that Suicide Squad took that award.
Yeah.
So, hell? DC beat the MCU at the Oscars. I'll never forgive Suicide Squad for that.
That is, oh my God.
Yeah.
To me, it felt a bit like they were kind of, I put a hint of racism with Killer Croc because I was like, did we have to make him ghetto? Like, was that? I was like, I've never read the character as that in the comics, and I felt like you guys purposely just had to do that.
Well, the character is a crocodile man, so no, they didn't.
I was like, I'm watching. I'm like, is it me or are they trying to be racist as much as they can be in this fucking film right now? Harley
Quinn got sexualized. Killer Croc was a racist character. Joker was a pimp. Need I go on?
I'm about having fun and playing with these characters. Obviously we've had that happen and it works, but this did not work.
Birds of Prey and The Suicide Squad were both great, so it is possible. Just not this time.
Yeah, so we get like a super flamboyant, potentially possibly gay Black Mask and Ewan McGregor, and that movie made it work in Birds of Prey, where I was like completely on board, like, yep, this is my Black Mask.
They were supposed to be gay, but then again, that movie came out in China, so they're not supposed to be gay. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, that's a case where, like, you completely obviously changed a character very much, quite a bit. You still kept him intact. Like, he did have his scenes where you're like, oh shit, that is the Black Mask. I know. Um,
Oh, I had very few problems with Birds of Prey. I really liked that movie.
no, that's what I'm saying. Like, in that case, yeah, what we're talking about with changing the character and playing with it a bit more. They
Mhm.
did it with him and that, but it works because that movie was good. I liked it quite a bit, and they knew how to actually make it work in that movie.
Well, yeah, Black Mask. It really depends on who's writing him. Sometimes he's dark and dismal. Sometimes he's flamboyant and over the top. It really depends on who's writing the comic. But I thought Ewan McGregor pulled it off great. I barely remember Suicide Squad because it didn't take. It's so gloomy and pointless. It was such a weird direction to take that movie. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh God. Yep. That's my number 3. Fucking Suicide Squad.
My number 2 is a movie that I don't think anybody has talked about in 17 years because it was so horrible. Everyone immediately said, "We're going to forget this happened. Don't you ever bring it up again. And if you do, you will be shot and buried in the same grave." And that is 2005's Son of the Mask.
God damn you.
Yep. See what I mean? Just the mention of this movie upsets people. If you're like The Mask, 1994, Jim Carrey, absolute classic. If you like that movie, you probably really, really wanted a sequel. And when you finally got it with Jamie fucking Kennedy, you were like, why did you do this to me? What did I do?
Why am I getting Malibu's Most Wanted?
That movie is a disgrace to the source material, to Jim Carrey's movie, to the audience, to Alan Cumming having to be there. It's such a stupid, terrible movie. And I saw
the movie hurts.
It does. It's a painful film. And it has, fuck all to do with the first movie. Thankfully, I think that was the end of America's affair with Jamie Kennedy. Like after that, nobody wanted him around anymore. So there's that. But one day I'm assuming we're going to tackle this movie on Beyond the Bad, and it's going to hurt, but it's going to be worth it to finally get all this pain out.
I want to have like a headache while I watch it because I remember being a kid and not liking it because it's just like I remember being a kid going, "Why is it so loud and obnoxious?" I remember that was like my thought, like this is loud, obnoxious, not funny.
It is. It's somebody trying to be Jim Carrey, not realizing that nobody but Jim Carrey can be Jim Carrey.
Yeah, there's a nuance to his physical comedy that only he can pull off.
Yeah, he's obnoxious, but it's hilarious. Jamie Kennedy skips that part and just remains obnoxious, which is not what people want ever. So yeah, Son of the Mask, absolute dog shit movie. But there's one movie I hate even more than that. So we'll get to that.
Ooh, I stand by that. The fact that the only time I've liked Jamie Kennedy was in the first 2 Scream movies.
Yep, exactly.
It's the only film that somehow Wes Craven's the only director that made that dude likable and funny, and it was only in that series.
Yep, you're not wrong.
God, my whole mind just got derailed the moment you said "Son of the Mask."
Mm-hmm.
God,
I would love to see an adaptation of the source material, like because the Dark Horse Mask comic is dark as fuck. It's not a comedy. It's basically a
I was about to say the first film is actually not technically not a fucking good adaptation. It's just ended up being a really good movie.
Exactly. It's a terrible adaptation of the source material, but it's funny as shit because Jim Carrey really makes it his own. But I would love like a super ultra violent adaptation of the source material and really make like The Mask a vicious, aggressive comic book movie. But I feel like it's been so, comedicized at this point that it wouldn't work. People would be like, that's not The Mask.
Yeah, that's how I feel about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I'm a massive Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fan. And the comics are actually super fucking dark and like gritty and like go for it. As we know, other than the first 90s film that did try to be dark and gritty, and people were like, we didn't like that. And then the sequel went in a more family friendly, like adventure route. And that's what the series has been since. It's the success it's had. And don't get me wrong, I'm a fan, but I know it's impossible now because of how it's been branded as a family type of property. I would still die to see like them do like, let's do it like the comics. Let's be dark. Let's be gritty. Let's make these guys fucking terrifying.
Yeah, it's a shame that the superhero movie has kind of become synonymous with family film because you really got to fight to get shit like Deadpool and the Punisher, done
Logan.
proper.
Logan.
Yeah. Like I'm hoping, with those success of those movies, minus the Punisher, and the boys, like I want some dark shit. Let's get some dark shit back up in here. Not every movie has to sell toys.
I think we're kind of seeing a turn to that. I mean, like I said, the boys, obviously the boys on my mind, thanks to the fact that we are getting Jeffrey Dean Morgan in season 4 now.
Woo.
But, the boys, obviously the fact that Marvel did say, I think like a year or two ago, they're like Deadpool 3, it might be MCU now, but it's going to be rated R, so they're not afraid to do something rated R. They're not, Marvel Zombies is going to be TVMA. Like we're kind of seeing them embrace like, hey, let's do this. Let's change it up a bit.
We're seeing them say that. I want them to I'm holding them to that. Like until we actually see, a red band trailer, doesn't exist.
I absolutely 100% believe that Deadpool 3 will be rated R because Ryan Reynolds has proven with his love for that character, he's willing to walk away from a fucking huge paycheck if he doesn't get what he wants.
All right. I'm hoping. I'm worried that at the last second, the House of Mouse is going to step in and being like, we can't do it. We can't do it.
I hope, but I mean, like I said, you've heard, the production on the first movie and how much he was like willing to sacrifice just to get the film he wanted made with two fucks given to what the studio wanted.
Yeah, that's right. Well, we'll see. But yeah, Son of the Mask sucks.
Yes, Son of the Mask is terrible. Oh God. Okay, my number 2. I gotta get off that one. Is I had to put this one because it's a very famous comic storyline that fans have been dying to see adapted properly. This was the second attempt in this franchise before they got bought by a bigger entity to try to do it again by a longtime producer who was with that series since the first fucking movie. And they still fucked it up. The Dark Phoenix. There's quite a bit of X-Men films I could have picked. Again, it's like Spider-Man. I was really kind of, obviously I know for a lot of people there's X-Men The Last Stand, which again, kind of like Spider-Man 3, I don't despise it. I don't like it a whole lot. It's definitely, if you talk original trilogy, obviously the least effective one. Like the first 2 blow it out of the water. But there's still some stuff I enjoy in it quite a bit. Origins of Wolverine was the fucking runner-up for Dark Phoenix. It's pretty bad. There's like no saving grace to that. So I know that's obviously no one. Apocalypse is also in there for me that I could have picked. I just, again, another trilogy was the fucking last one. They dropped the goddamn ball. Obviously for a lot of people, the New Mutants, even though I actually really don't think it was as bad as people made it out to be. I don't think it was great. It just wasn't as bad as people made it out to be. So within that, I was like, okay, which one do I want to pick? And I was like, Dark Phoenix, because again, and it's a simple fact, like I said, this was the second attempt at doing this storyline. You had Simon Kinberg, who has been on this board with this franchise since X-Men back in 2000, this time writing and directing, in charge, taking over, saying and promising in so many interviews that, hey, we're doing it right this time. We got this. And they still found a way to completely fuck it all up.
Yeah, you're 100% right. My number 1 is Dark Phoenix.
I had a feeling.
For every reason you just laid out. First off, I don't know why the hell they thought this movie's so powerful, so amazing. Everyone's going to know exactly what it is. So let's just drop X-Men from the title and just call it Dark Phoenix. Like that worked out great.
After they did that with the New Mutants, and that didn't pay off for them, other than the fact that it had a wonky release. But I'm sure that didn't help.
This is personally Simon Kinberg's second time fucking up the Dark Phoenix saga, because he wrote Last Stand. That was his fuck up.
I forgot he wrote it. Yeah,
yep. And then he directed Dark Phoenix. This guy should no longer be allowed to touch comic book movies. He clearly doesn't know what he's doing.
Well, I mean, he's not touching X-Men anymore. Marvel has it.
I think anything that comes out of a comic book, keep him, 500 yards away. But this movie caps off the First Class quadrilogy so horrendously. First off, I don't know why every film had to jump forward 10 years but not age anybody.
Yeah, it was like they did that weird thing where like, well, we did First Class in the 60s and then Days of Future Past in the 70s, so we should just keep doing it. I was like, you don't have to.
Yeah.
Because after First Class and Days of Future Past, there's like real no like those two films at least utilize the fact that yes, it's in the 60s, this was in the 70s. Like they utilize the decade they're in.
Yeah.
Apocalypse barely utilizes the 80s, other than saying like, hey, yeah, we're in the 80s now. It's like, okay, why?
Yeah, it brought nothing to the table. I personally didn't really have any problem with Apocalypse. I enjoyed Apocalypse. But Dark Phoenix, man, I just watching this really good story get ripped to shreds again by the same asshole. Like, how many times is this guy going to be allowed to butcher this? And yeah, I thought Sophie Turner was painfully miscast as Jean Grey. We had just met her in the previous movie. There was no emotional connection to this character whatsoever. Like, it just, Jennifer Lawrence was so bored.
God.
Fassbender's like Magneto didn't even need to fucking be there. He had no relevance to the story.
It's
the whole
amazing
Jessica Chastain alien thing made no fucking sense. It was horrible. It was horrible. The worst movie I've ever seen at the theaters by far. I saw it by myself because no one would go with me because everybody knew. But I was like, I've seen every X-Men movie in the theaters. I got to see this last one. I got to do this. I regretted my decision within 10 minutes. And I walked away incredibly upset and disappointed. And then I think the next week I saw the Child's Play remake. So it was not a good month. I remember those two happened pretty close to each other.
Oh boy. Yeah, I watched this on a whim because it didn't look interesting to me. I didn't bother watching it in theaters. I finally watched a new movie since one day, and it was shortly after they got bought by Disney, and I was like, okay, well, Disney's made it very clear they're doing X-Men at some point in the franchise. Obviously, you need any more doubts to get tampered on that. Watch Miss Marvel where they dropped the mutation fucking bombshell. So it's coming. It's like winter. It's coming. Hopefully we get some more news at D23. Who knows? But so I was like, let me just watch this and finish my Fox. Right, like you, like, hey, I've seen all the Fox run of films. Let me watch this last one, cap it off.
Yeah.
And much like you, I started it, and I think I'd actually within like maybe 5 minutes, I went, oh my god, this is a bad idea. I was like, God, I'd finish it because I fucking watched all the other ones.
My favorite little detail was that James McAvoy had just finished filming Glass, so he was still insanely ripped. So Professor X is like incredibly cut for no reason that it never comes up in the movie, but they like layered him in sweaters to try to hide it, and they fucking don't.
I love when films do that, like how we talked about in Lawless with Tom Hardy, where they're like, shit, you got really big for Bane. We don't need you this big for the movie. So they're just like, let's put a lot of sweaters on him. Just make him look tired.
It never works. It just makes them look bigger. That's all a sweater does, make you look bigger.
Makes them look bigger. And in both cases, do the men not ever just look tired? Like they're just like, they don't want to do this. They're just like, I just really need to work off this weight first, please.
Dude, everybody in Dark Phoenix looks like they don't care. They don't want to be there. It's all a contractual obligation that they don't want to deal with financially. So they're just like, fuck it. I'll do the movie. I'll sleepwalk through this and then I'll be done. And yeah, everyone has that. You don't feel a single emotional moment in this movie. Not even when Mystique dies, where you're supposed to feel. Oh. You've been with this character the whole time. You're supposed to feel something. I didn't feel shit.
Well, it's because like Jennifer Lawrence was so adamant about not wanting to do these. Like shortly after Days of Future Past, she may have known she's like, I don't want to keep doing this. I really hate this. And I'm like, maybe calm down on your fucking. I know she's like known to be very like blunt in her interviews.
Yeah.
I'm like, maybe shut the fuck up. Because I need to believe your performance.
Well, also, I don't feel bad for anybody who has to undergo like blue makeup for like $8 million. So, either, argue your way out of it or just be Mystique.
Yeah. I mean,
Oh,
Rebecca Romijn did it for 3 films and seemed fine. And
yeah.
she still has a pretty strong career. She's on the new Star Trek, the Strange New Worlds.
Oh, good.
Yeah, she's one of the main characters. So her career's still going strong.
I'll never really understand why the prequel reboot trilogy, whatever you want to call it, the McAvoy Fassbender movies, why they went so big on Mystique. Like I'll never understand why she became such a big character in that section of the series.
If honestly, if you watch that and then try watching like the original trilogy, the continuity does not match up on the little details at all. Not one bit.
Do Xavier and Mystique have any interaction whatsoever in the original trilogy? I don't think they do.
No, and yet in this prequel, we're supposed to believe they were like lifelong friends. I'm like, you can what?
They're basically siblings. They grew up together, but that never comes up. The continuity is so incredibly fucked with the X-Men franchise.
Honestly, it's been like that since beginning. Like you watch X-Men Origins Wolverine, and apparently Sabretooth and Wolverine were brothers that have a rivalry, which is much more in line with the comics. But then if you watch the original trilogy, he has no fucking idea who Wolverine is. You know what I mean? They don't know. Sabretooth and Wolverine do not know each other like that. You're just like,
nope. There's that weird bit in X-Men 3 where, a walking Xavier and a friendly Magneto are going to get Jean Grey in the 80s. It's like, well, that wouldn't make sense. It's a mess. And you can't explain all of it away with time travel. Some of it's just, nobody cared.
yeah, they were just trying to get this franchise going.
I still love most of them. There's, I saw X-Men when I was 5. Like that was the movie that started my love affair with Marvel films, with comic book films, really.
Yeah.
So I owe X-Men a lot. The first two are still two of my favorite movies of all time. First Class and Days of Future Past are masterpieces. Logan is great. The rest of them aren't great.
No, yeah, I still like a good chunk of the series. Like if I'm being honest, the first 2 X-Men movies, the Wolverine, Logan, both Deadpool films, first, Days of Future Past, First Class. So a large majority I enjoy. There's also quite a bit in this franchise. So I'm like, not your best effort.
Yep. Oy. Well, there's my 5. I think I know what your number 1 is.
My number 1, as I alluded to earlier, is the train wreck that made me go on a whole rant and hate my life. 2015's Fantastic Four. Wow, I so the day I wrote this review, and I think you like looked at it and texted me. Was like, "Well, you really ranted there, buddy." Like, I got a text from you immediately.
Well, I don't get when you did reviews, I did not get a lot of 2s. So that was a red light went up, and I'm like, oh, I should ask him what's wrong. Yeah.
Straight up, fuck this movie, man. If that's a rating, it's this one. Yeah, it killed Josh Trank's career, which was very promising when he got this because of his he did Chronicle. There we go, which was a huge hit. So you were like, ooh, okay, guy on the rise here. I think at one point he was attached to the third Jurassic World film and then not attached.
He was a promising up and comer. Like, Fantastic Four was supposed to be his way in, but no.
well, it's like you said, the film tanked, and while he's probably right, clearly doesn't know you don't do that because of how studios are. Felt the need to go on the defensive in a lot of interviews and be like, well, it's not even and before the film even came out, actually, he was like that. I remember a lot of interviews before he was like that, where he's like, it's not my original vision, blah, blah, blah. And then the studio fought back with like, well, this is what was being reported when you were directing about you not being interested by your directing and all that. Became just a he should, she should thing. But at the end of the day, you're a first time director. You got handed this big franchise. They were a major fucking studio.
He did something else after Fantastic Four that like tanked really hard, I think. What was it? It was Capone.
Oh yeah.
He's done. It's over.
But God, dude, it is. I've never seen a film that does such a terrible job of hiding its reshoots the way this one does. Kate Mora,
yeah,
the one that didn't snooze her way through Nightmare on Elm Street 2010. At one point, it's so fucking obvious she is running away because her blonde hair does not match in some scenes. It is astonishing that they were like, "Yep, that's okay."
I'm amazed they even came back for reshoots. I would have been like, fuck off.
Yeah. I was like,
Reshoot my ass. How about that?
oh, no, at no point. And by the way, like for those who are wondering, Fantastic Four, other than the fact that it is actually Marvel's first fucking comic that they ever did, one of the key things to the Fantastic Four is that they feel like a family. And of when it comes to crime fighting, they never felt like that in this movie. At any point did they feel like a fucking family. Um, everyone, like you said, around my miscast to hell. Thank God Marvel saw something in Michael B. Jordan because he got redeemed with fucking Killmonger and Black Panther. Um, crushed it, and I'm actually still kind of mad at Marvel for killing his ass off in the first film because I want more Killmonger.
Marvel has, maintained the tradition of giving the Human Torch another chance.
Thank God. But yeah, everyone's miscast. It takes on such a fucking somber tone. I'm like, this is Fantastic Four. I am to anyone who hasn't known yet. Why I allude to the Man of Steel reference earlier. I'm all about like make your comic book as far as the tone's concerned. Unless you can prove that playing with it is the right thing to do, just stick to what the comic tone is. So in this case, Fantastic Four has always been upbeat. It's always been happy. It's been what people won't shut up bitching about with all the MCU films, which is they're quippy and bad. If you're still complaining about that, stop watching the 30th MCU film. Like, Jesus Christ, people, shut the fuck up. That's Fantastic Four. Like, they're supposed to be that, and this film goes, nope. They're going to be moody and dour and sad for like an almost 2 hour runtime. Like you said, Doctor Doom, Marvel has their work cut out for them thanks to Fox. And getting us an actual good Doctor Doom. I'm sure I have no doubt they'll pull it off. I'm not saying they won't. I'm saying they got Fox left them in such a terrible hole in that regard with their fucking take on Doctor Doom twice.
I honestly didn't think they could fuck it up worse than Julian McMahon's Doom from the 05 and 07 movies. But Toby Kebbell as this, one dimensional, I think he was like a hacker or some shit. And the mask, like they didn't even bother animating the mouth. They just made him like they glued some kind of like space helmet to his face and they said that he's Doom now. And like, no. I mean, if you count the Corman movie from the 90s, they have fucked up Fantastic Four 4 times. 4 strikes. I honestly like Marvel's take on this has to be just like a C minus, and it'll be the best one. It doesn't even have to be amazing. It just has to be watchable.
Hey, look, like I said, I am sure if anyone's going to get it right, it will be Marvel. They have yet to really like, even though I complain about how they kill off a lot of their films and it pisses me off, they usually do a good job of getting the right actors for these roles. So I have no doubt. I'm just saying, like we were talking about, like it's the work is in this case the work's absolutely cut out for them. With Fantastic Four in general, if we're being honest, like because of all these other adaptations, like they really got to prove themselves. I know some people are already worried because they had John Watts step down because he's understandably kind of tired from doing 3 fucking Spider-Man films. But I'm not. Marvel hasn't moved the release date for the film at all, which tells me that they just went with that and went, hey, okay, cool, let's put it down for this date. We'll get a director, move forward, no problem.
And John Watts wasn't like, I'm never working for Marvel again. And Feige wasn't like, don't let the door hit your ass on the way out. Feige was like, he did great work for us and we look forward to, his career in the future. Good luck, John. Like, yeah, it was amicable.
Yeah, it was literally him going like, hey, man, I've done like 3 Spider-Man films and obviously the success with No Way Home. He's like, okay, hey, like I need a break. I need something that's not as like intensive as this. And Feige just went, hey, we totally get it. Door's always open for if you want to come back. Yeah. But hey, good luck out there. Wish you the best luck, man.
He made Marvel Studios like $4 billion with those 3 movies. Like he's got that door is revolving. So he can come back anytime he wants.
Yeah. So like I said, Marvel will probably. I absolutely have all the faith in Marvel in getting this right. This time around, us finally getting a fucking Fantastic Four film that is worthy of our time and money.
I love that. Like I don't even have to have high expectations. I'll just be like, this could be Marvel's worst movie, and it'll still be the best Fantastic Four movie.
Look, as long as it's not a fucking snooze fest like Eternals, I'll be fine.
No, they're gonna. I think considering Kang is their next big bad, they got a lot invested in the Fantastic Four because Kang is Reed Richards' like future ancestor, so that's going to be important.
Yeah, well, that and the fact that they're doing Secret Wars, and I think if I remember correctly, Doom's pretty involved in that.
Yeah, he's basically the main villain of the Secret Wars story. He wants the Beyonders' power, and doesn't go the way he thinks it's going to go. I love that story. I can't wait.
Oh yeah, so that's what I say. Like, I have no doubt in my mind there. I want to make sure that this film was done right. So, and as I don't know if anyone knows, there's a lot of rumors around that they do already have a new director in place for the film that we might be finding out at D23. We don't know yet. We'll find out.
Yeah. Everything's gonna be fine. And honestly, knock on wood, but it's not like it could get any worse.
If they go lower than this, I'm going to kill myself.
There's no possible way. I mean, it would have to be like just completely off base. The tone is, all over the map. They get like Zack Snyder to direct it. And like Doctor Doom is played by like Rob Schneider. Like that's the way they'd have to fuck this up for it to be worse. So I don't think they're going to do that.
Okay. True. Yeah, because this movie is the pinnacle of just, to me, this is the pinnacle of bad comic book adaptations. Like, and you take away all the actual movie stuff, this was the third fucking attempt from Fox.
First one's so bad it's never been officially released.
Oh, yeah, like, how do you as a company not only screw up a storyline for your X-Men franchise twice, and then you turn around the other one that you own, the one you're clearly giving less effort put into, you fuck it up 3 times in a row. You're like, you can't get this one right.
2015's Fantastic Four is the Hellraiser Revelations of comic book movies because it was only made to retain the rights and no one put any real effort into it.
Yeah, well,
that was fun.
That was fun. Go ahead and just recap. What were your your 5?
Number 5, The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Number 4, Batman and Robin. Number 3, Fantastic Four, 2015. Number 2, Son of the Mask. Number 1, Dark Phoenix.
My 5, or number 5, that makes Spider-Man 2. 4, 2019's Hellboy. 3, Suicide Squad, the first one. 2, the Dark Phoenix, and 1, Fantastic Four, 2015.
Nice. So we had 2 overlap.
Yeah, I was actually kind of impressed. I thought for sure there might be a good amount of overlap on this one. I was anticipating it.
Well, I personally have not seen Elektra or Jonah Hex, but I have a feeling they would be there.
I remember I watched Elektra once as a kid because I thought Jennifer Garner was hot. And I remember not liking it. I remember I thought it was like, this movie sucks, but she's hot, and then I never watched it again.
Well, a lot of these movies, I don't seek out shit movies in my spare time. I do it now because of this show, but outside the show, I try not to watch movies that are known to be terrible. So I haven't seen a good chunk of these. A lot of these were just, my expectations were too high.
There's quite a bit of, at least like when I was a kid going through like puberty, like any other, boy growing up. Definitely terrible films I watched because I thought the actress in it was hot and it was on TV one day and I watched it and then got confirmed it was terrible and never watched it again.
Thankfully for me, most of the movies I watched to see a hot actress actually ended up being pretty good.
Or just watch porn. Let's just be honest with ourselves.
What do you think I'm talking about? We have fun.
Ooh, all right. If there's nothing to add to that, I'd say let's bring it back to Polar and get into our awards. I know we just had that fun, but let's take it back to this train wreck of a film and get into our awards. First up, Zack Snyder, who I found out he apparently Netflix is going all in and doing a Rebel Moon Part 2. So 2 more hours to slow-mo. The worst scene. What do you got?
Well, first off, I'd just like to say I'm increasingly happy that I drove a stake through the heart of the sneak preview, so I don't have to bother with Zack Snyder's new space movie.
Netflix is going all in on already.
Of course they are. My worst scene encompasses really the ending of the movie, the final twist, where you find out that Duncan killed Vanessa Hudgens' family. Like, did we need this? After everything else that we got, all these subplots that are just like put onto this thing like a fucking Lego house, do we need this last little bit? Does it do anything for the story? No, it doesn't. It's completely unnecessary. It's horribly acted and ultimately fruitless. Like, we could have cut 20, 30 minutes off this movie if we just didn't do this.
Yeah, the whole storyline's weird, and like the whole relationship's honestly weird. Like, it's the strangest. Because it's like, is she trying to get with them? Like, she's trying to be friends with them? Like, what is she doing? And then it's like abandoned because she gets taken for like a large chunk of the movie, and then magically brought back up at the end. And even then, I'm still going, well, I'm not really that surprised because we keep going back to this scene, and she runs like, okay, I could have told you this was going to happen at some point.
Well, I forgot. Like, it's so pointless that like when I watched it for the second time here, I had completely forgotten about that. I read my review. I mentioned something about a final twist, and I had a moment of like, what twist? Like, I didn't. It had completely left my mind. So clearly, it has no ramifications on the movie as a whole, and it's not memorable. So like, why devote so much of the movie to it?
Because the movie can't just not do a fucking subplot.
It feels like that. It feels like every idea they had, they're like, oh, I saw this in a movie once. Let's shove that in here. It's a turducken of a movie. It's crazy.
Just doesn't stop. I'll get more into that later though. Good one though. That's a good scene. I definitely had some less run down because I was like, God, this film is just not a good scene. Followed after not a good scene. For me, it's just because it's so fucking weird and out of place, and I don't know why the hell it's put into the movie. It's when Mads Mikkelsen's character Vizsla is doing the strangest presentation for like a classroom of children.
Yeah.
First off, how does she get this whole thing fucking hooked up for him? Second off, why? Third off, why is no one fucking stopping him from talking about deadly fucking weapons in front of kids? At one point, demonstrating on a kid, obviously, well, the intent to kill him, but still, like, it's a fucking weapon.
I was slicing that kid's overalls off.
Still, I would be like, whoa, 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 let's not put the knife near the fucking child, dude.
It was weird that teacher in the back's just like grimacing, but not making any effort to stop this, like, about to traumatize some children event. And it is out of place, doesn't ever come up again. It's weird because this movie's not a comedy. So, like, why are there random comedic moments spliced into this? Yeah,
it never works either. And then like we get the moment where like the kids are asking him stuff, and he keeps having like flashbacks to his hits that he pulled off, and like him saying something. I'm like, this whole thing is just the weirdest fucking person. And then he walks out. How'd he go? I think it went pretty well. And I'm like, we're going to touch on this later. Like, is this like his goal in life is to retire and teach kids how to murder?
I don't know what anybody wants in this movie. It's all so vague and constantly flip flopping. Nobody's motivation makes a lick of sense in this movie.
No, but yeah, that was my scene. Next up, the Ed Wood worst line. What do you got for this one?
This was tough. I have two. My first one's pretty basic. It's a character's catchphrase that we hear a couple times. It's blow time.
I didn't think we'd have overlap because I definitely wrote that down.
That was so stupid. And just her whole character is just there to be hot. It's weird, and she's objectified beyond belief, and her whole thing is like, the guy's distracted while she's blowing him so they don't see the bullet from behind coming. Like, what's the point?
Yeah, it's like he can't see you when you shoot because you're a sniper from thousands of yards away. They can't already. They don't see. So Aurora was pointless. Aurora first was pointless. Second off, if any woman in just any sexual scenario, or dude, it's 2020, like any sexual partner you have, okay, let's just blanket statement, any sexual partner you have, for the weird reason feels need that before they blow you, goes, it's blow time, mister. Put your pants back on and walk away. Like that is a strange thing to say. And I will personally be done. I'm like, you know what? Nope. I'll finish this off myself. I'll take care of things in private.
And on the safety side, there's a good to fair chance you're about to get shot in the back.
Yeah, and really, if you're about to get blown, do it in a place with at least 4 walls and a roof.
Maybe shut the windows.
Yeah, don't do it near a window. Why would I? But man, in movies, like they do sex in like the most open places. Where I'm like, just close the fucking window.
It's exhibition over comfort for some reason. And my other line just didn't make any fucking sense. I kept thinking about this, and I'm still trying to figure out what the hell Vivian meant by this. And it's towards the end where Duncan uses the laser gloves to take out all these soldiers. I still don't know what that was all about, but Vivian's trying to convince him to stop. And she says, the road that you've chosen doesn't have a rainbow. Like, what? What does that mean? What rainbow? Is this a saying I just don't know?
The rainbow of retirement. I don't know.
I guess. Does she play a lot of Mario Kart? Like, what the fuck is she talking about?
She only plays Rainbow Road in Mario Kart. That is it. No,
that's what I was thinking of. But like, I was like, she can't mean that. That can't be what she's talking about. Is this some like Viking reference? Is this the Bifrost? Like, what does she mean? So yeah, it bothered me because it made no sense. But she clearly said it with conviction.
Oh yeah, she did. This actress tried really hard for a lot of her lines. Yeah, I only had the one, the Explode Time Mister, because it's the first time I let it go, I was like, well, whatever. Trying Knoxville's in this scene anyway, so why the fuck do I even care?
Your standards drop when Knoxville's involved.
Yeah, I say as someone who really loves Jackass, I think Knoxville's a generally probably good dude, but yeah, it's just
I get it.
Yeah, but just and then maybe that's supposed to be like this action movie. The moment I see it, and it's not like Walking Tall or something like that, where okay, there's a bit of comedy already sprinkled into it, so you know his point of his purpose. In this case, it's meant to be just straight up action, and the first thing I see is Knoxville. I'm like, okay, well, of course she's gonna say it's blow time. It's just probably something he would joke about on a fucking Jackass movie, for Christ's sakes. But then she said it again, and I went, no, this is her catchphrase, and this is a bad catchphrase.
Yeah, she's in a bad place in life if this is what she's doing, is blowing targets so the rest of her team can finish the job.
Yeah, and also just you don't need to announce when you're about to blow someone. Just fucking put your mouth on it.
Jesus Christ.
You don't need to announce it like it's a fucking sideshow. Jesus.
Just picturing her like with an alarm on like an Apple Watch, and it goes off. And she's like, "Oh, it's blow time."
Trying to feel the sucky suck.
Jesus Christ. Oh yeah.
Oh boy.
An unnecessary layer of sleaze in this weird, hard to pin down movie.
Especially because the second time she says it is when you get the one of the most gratuitous sex scenes I've witnessed in all of fucking film. Where they don't even cut away for like the changing of positions. They make you watch them change positions, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah. If Mads wasn't happily married, I'd be like, he was in her. Like this happened.
He just insists. He's like, all right, so there's a sex scene coming up. I insist I have to actually penetrate her. I must be inside.
Jesus.
And I must finish.
God inside. Oh my God. It was so much. It was so much.
A lot. You see a whole lot of Mikkelsen.
Yeah. I mean, just like her tits up against the glass. I'm like, what? Who directed this thing? Like, did like a porno guy step in and be like, I got this. I got this.
I thought they got a porno director. I was like, because I'm like, okay, again, we're doing things that I would if it's that cold outside, you do not want your tits, as great as they are. Don't She had nice ones, don't get me wrong. You don't want them up against glass. It's snowing outside. That glass is probably freezing fucking cold.
Was this entirely just to get him in front, like to get him in his bedroom window? Like, was that the whole point of that? Was just so
Yeah, like
he
what?
would end up over there?
Yeah, but what would have happened if he didn't? Like he's let's say he's a dominant guy and like he doesn't.
What if he just, prefers to fuck on the couch? Like, mission abort? Like, what
Yeah,
does she
at
have to
least
come back later?
start having like a casual thing with them in the hopes that one day it'll be near the window.
They date for like 6 years. They have 2 kids. He finally walks in front of the windows. We got him.
I like at least with Knoxville, like she was outside, so it's like okay, you can do this like wherever he's outside. Okay, cool. But with him, I'm like, you have to get him in front of that window, like that specific window, because any other window is a wash.
I do love that Duncan is not like, he's privy to what's going on. He figured out like, oh, she's probably here to kill me, but she's also super fucking hot, so I might as well. Like that was his thought process. Like he knew why she was there, but also he was like, I'm retired, not dead.
I am going to fuck this. Whereas Knoxville, they're like, yep, that feels like his character would be. Just I live retirement, some random ladies blowing me.
Yep. Knoxville would die with a heart on. I feel like that's implied.
It's in his contract for some weird reason.
I feel like when he really does die, he's gonna die hard. And we're all gonna be just like saluting him. Dunn's gonna give him a big old high five in the next life.
They're just going to at his funeral pull a last like grand prank just for Knoxville and be like, this is what he would have wanted.
They just launch the corpse into a lake. That's his send off.
God. All seriousness, all joking aside, I will be sad the day I have to read that on a fucking headline.
I do feel like all the shit he's been through, like he's either exceeded his 9 lives or he can't die. He's gonna be the last man on earth.
Oh, good old Knoxville. Oh, all right. I still need information. Just quick side. I still wonder. I'm still wondering, are they going to be part of that new Jackass show that's coming out or not?
I'm sure I don't think they're going to do like a lot of stunts, but I'm sure they'll be there to like, help with production and get fucked with on the side and, come up with ideas for crazy shit.
Yeah. God, I can't wait for that new show. It's like, I got my movie. I was very happy. And then they're like, hey, we're doing a new show. I was like, oh my God, yes, more Jackass.
Yeah, I'll be watching that too.
Yeah. So with that, let's move on before we keep talking about Knoxville here. The Steven Seagal, the worst performance too. It was not Knoxville for me.
So the performances in this movie aren't exactly Oscar winning. It's quite a lot to pick from here. I do think Mads is doing his best to keep this thing together. But to me, this went to Matt Lucas as our bad guy, Blut or Blut, whatever the hell it was.
But we have overlap again because I heard him now too.
Really? He was just the last guy I would be afraid to go up against. He was not intimidating in the slightest. He was irritating. He was annoying. He was gross. Just Dude, anybody would have been better.
At first I was debating him and some other people I'd written down. But then what solidified it for me was when we have him cut to him doing the fucking sword shit at the meeting. And then saying that, I went, oh yeah, he's getting it. He is the worst fucking thing in this film.
Well, the way he's just like so smarmy and like he's like a Bond villain. He's like, yeah, he says cliched shit. It's crazy. It's so over the top, but also so like utilized. I don't understand what the point was with this character.
To me, he is miscast as fuck. Like, this is a terrible performance.
You put a guy like, just off the top of my head, like Vincent D'Onofrio, you got a crazy intimidating bad guy here. But yes, he was a joke.
Yeah, I was not intimidated by, and I mean, his fucking death proves it. You know what I mean? Like, the guy walks up to him and cuts his head off. There's no epic fight scene. It's not like in John Wick, right? With the guy, you know, the Russian mob boss. Like, he's intimidating. You get the feeling like this guy fucks people up, and then you do get an actual fight between him and Wick at the end of the film.
You got such a great sense of a decades-long history between those two characters in John Wick. Like, it felt earned. It felt like, you know, personal, and they wanted that so bad in Polar, but they couldn't get it. This movie wants to be John Wick so bad.
So bad. Because even then, Mads Mikkelsen, at no point did these two ever interact until towards the end of the film. It's all his people that are doing the fucking talking and stuff like that throughout the movie for them. And it's like, oh my god. It's, Matt Lucas is I did have the chick that played Sydney, the one that just blows people. I had her down because I thought she was fucking awful outside of her sex scenes. To listen to, like when she has the weird whining moment in that one trailer and they kill the guy and she starts like randomly just whining. I'm like, I remember just sitting there going, shut up, stop, you're a grown fucking woman.
What was with the parade of freaks in the middle of this movie? Like, just, you know, giant fat weird people and like sexual sadists, and like this movie just trying to be as gross as possible.
I think so. It was just left field. Like, and that was a weird scene. Just out of nowhere, the dude's just like hitting her and being like, we do things this way. And I'm like, the fuck is going on? What the hell?
Yeah, nothing in this movie makes sense. There's so many different ideas happening all at once.
Yeah, and but with that, like I said, I'm like, I picked Matt Lucas. It's just what a terrible fucking. I'm not intimidated at all by this guy. And then like it's this whole plan. I'm killing them so I can get their pension. I'm like, why? You're already a successful like boss of this organization. Like, you're going to need hitman constantly.
Yeah. Besides, he's the one making these contracts. Just don't include in there that the whole pension thing. Like, just get rid of that. Like,
I was like, you literally just changed the contract. Also, what matter? Who cares if you give them a fucking pension? You're clearly making money for years giving your retired hitman pensions. Like, I don't understand.
Yeah, and he said like if they die with no next of kin, then the company gets the check. Like, they get the money. He has no next of kin. Like, that never comes up.
Yeah. And so, also he makes a comment that goes, most people in this business don't have next of kin. So usually they get the money.
So what was the fucking point of any of this?
It's a pointless thing. It's like, you don't need to do any of this. It's you're an idiot.
This is why you always write a second draft.
Then you can realize maybe some things don't hold up.
And if you're third, fourth, fifth, keep writing until somebody tells you this isn't terrible. And if you get nothing but great feedback, you are surrounded by ass kissers.
So Netflix. With that, on that note, the Michael Bay, the worst filmmaking decision.
Yeah, I brought this up already. To me, there's a serious lack of focus in this movie. It's telling too many stories. None of them really match up. You don't really feel any stakes in this. And that's it, really. Like, there's no point to anything. Like, I kept finding myself thinking, like, why am I here? Like, beyond watching it for the show, like, what is the point? What am I getting out of this? And I wasn't getting anything the whole fucking time.
Yeah, it's funny because we're pretty much just hitting the same notes here. Because I pretty much put up saying it's like the film can't decide on like a tone or storyline to tackle. The whole time I'm just sitting there going, what story are you guys trying to tell? Like, what are you trying to tell? Because I can't fucking figure it out. And then what tone are you going for? One minute you're deathly serious, and then the next you're cracking jokes and trying to be stylized and over the top and stuff like that. And none of it's fucking gelling to the point where like it was a painful almost 2 hours. It just felt like it kept going. So I was just like, oh my god, just end the goddamn movie. I can't take this anymore.
Yep. Exact same thoughts. This is thankfully the last time I ever have to watch this piece of shit.
This was the first and only time I've ever had to watch this. And obviously wasn't successful enough to warrant Netflix, doing a sequel. So thank God.
Yeah. You really got to hunt this down if you want to watch it. Just type
Yeah,
POL in Netflix and it'll be there.
Yep, it's lost in the algorithm now. With that, I know we're just kind of shitting on a lot, but let's see if we can find a silver lining, a positive thing. So, was there anything positive you took from this movie?
It was nearly that hyper aggressive sex scene because I was just like, this is hot. But ultimately, the scene where Duncan uses that to take down, the so-called A-team, that was a pretty badass scene. I'm going to give it that. Like when Duncan naked takes all these fuckers out, but he just shows up above the sniper somehow, naked, shoots him in the head. All that is pretty sweet.
Yeah, it's actually fine. I have roughly the same thing. So I put the action sequences or the few that we get are actually pretty fucking good. The nude fight scene with Mads Mikkelsen and him getting on like the sniper. I mean, like, don't be afraid, just breathe. So that one chick and like finding ways to draw her out so you can shoot her. He being on top of the dude and then just fucking killing him, and the whole while he's fucking butt naked. Kills Cindy so she can stop giving away his position.
Yeah, with a fucking like hatchet to the face.
Yeah, that was fucking epic. And then obviously the other action scene I speak of with them is the hallway fight sequence when he is like the fucking Terminator, just shooting dudes down, fucking using the others as spy. He's actually getting shot. And to their credit, I know people complain about because in John Wick he always wears, he gets shot a lot, but they explain it right by him having the suits with like their essentially body armor. And this one he doesn't have that. So you're seeing him get shot and get back the fuck up and keep going and not stopping till every person is dead in that hallway.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I liked that. The initial attack on the Mexican guy that he thinks is, killing all the agents and all that. The guy he fucking nails to the wall. That was insane. Just like, one in each wrist, two in the ball bag. Like, and then starts drilling into his fucking head to get him to see if he's lying. Like, that was horrifying.
Yeah, you definitely feel why this guy was considered one of the best. Why he got his nickname. You know what I mean? They lead to their credit. It's some trying to be John Wick, right? And I'll always praise the lead up to the character of John Wick in the first film, and like the fear they instill in you, the audience member, to his character. And like, dude, who is this guy? When everyone's like, you get those kind of scenes like, oh, whose car is that? Oh, we sold off this one dude. Oh, he stole it and he punches him. Yeah. Like, yeah, I don't give a shit. Why when I tell your dad who you stole this car from?
That because John Wick is not just a great action movie, it's just a great movie. It's a brilliant script. It's tight, it's precise, it's perfection. This just takes, the greatest hits of John Wick and tries to, mold them into a new format, but it just doesn't take.
No, and they do that. They're like, oh, you don't want to mess with the Black Kaiser. He's one of the best. And she even warns them, is like, you need to leave this one alone. Like, this guy's going to fuck us up. And to their credit, when they do show the two fucking action scenes we get, you're like, okay, I see why she was wanting him. This guy is like serious, like one of their best. Clearly, you don't want to fuck with them because he is fucking them up.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there you go.
There you go.
I mean, I think, do you think that in the proper hands, like, this could have been something? Do you think that there was any chance here of this being a substantial, memorable action movie, or do you think they were doomed from the beginning because they were just trying to be a clone?
I think if they had stopped trying to be a clone and tried to be an actual adaptation of the webcomic, I think we had something.
Well, I guess we'll never know.
Yeah, we'll never know because, like I said, in the webcomic, it's clear that like I said, it's known for its like a speech, like a dialogue, speech bubbles, very stylized concept. So it's something was there in the comic that they just did not want to pursue for the movie.
Oh well.
But yeah, with that, that's all I got for Silver Lining for the rewards. So unless you got anything else to add, we are ready to move on to what's in the box.
What's in the fucking box? Give me the gun.
This was interesting. This is sporting a 2.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd, so not our worst, but nothing's. I doubt anything's going to beat that 3.0 that Showgirls had. I'll never understand that.
Yeah, I don't get that one.
But most of these reviews were like, "This movie sucked, but Mikkelsen was hot." Like that was pretty much every review was like, "I hated this movie, but goddamn, he was hot."
Spike is that fixing. All the women got were like, "Dear God, that man can fuck."
Basically, there were a lot of a few that were like, plenty of TNA, but no cock and balls. What's up with that?
Yes, Nicholson's ass, like full display.
Yeah. If I ever wanted to know what Lashif's taint looks like, this is the movie.
That's why Dumbledore likes him so much.
Oh God. Well, here are 5 reviews on Letterboxd of Polar that I hope can make you laugh. Number 1, this is from Minty. Make better movies, or I'm gonna have to learn how to read a book. 1 star.
Learn how to read a book. I like reading. Fuck you, but I get it.
This next one is from Miller_SM. Mads Mikkelsen plays a retiring baby boomer-esque John Wick character who has to fight against the most annoying Gen Z Suicide Squad ripoff in the world. The humor is Freddy Got Fingered level or worse. I did like the scene where he shot his dog. 0.5 star.
Jesus.
I love that, like, the whole thing about John Wick that was unique at the time was, like, they killed his dog, so he hunts him down. So with this guy, they're like, well, why don't we just have, like, cut out the middleman and just have him kill the dog? Like, they completely missed the fucking point.
Yeah. Also, it means we get deprived of a fucking chair confessional scene like we got in John Wick.
Yeah.
It's asking if I'm back. I haven't known how to answer, but now I'm thinking, yeah, I'm back.
I'm honestly surprised we didn't have that moment in this because it felt like, they were, cheapening all of John Wick's other big moments.
Right.
So why not that one?
We've talked about John Wick so much that, like, I look forward to the day because I know we're kind of saving it because of the 4th one, but I'm so looking forward to talking about that.
Yeah.
God, do I adore John Wick so much.
Yeah, it's one of our favorites, and we are for sure saving that for John Wick 4. This next one is from Dylan. You son of a bitch. I added that part. Imagine if someone watched John Wick and desperately wanted to make money off making another John Wick, but didn't understand what actually made the choreography and action scenes of John Wick good. So they just make fight scenes with more cuts in a paper factory, and it sucks. But Mads Mikkelsen is hot and hangs dong in this movie. So 2 stars. I love people who have their priorities in check. I love it.
I respect it. I feel like I'm one of those people. I'm like, I hate this movie, but so and so was hot. So
Mads hangs dong. Good for him.
I love it. Mads hangs dong. Like the constant John Wick come up. So I keep coming. Like,
yeah, we're not alone in that. Everyone is very aware of what this movie is.
Yes. Also, I want to point out, as far as the boomer comment, does he know how old Keanu Reeves was when the first John Wick came out?
Keanu he's that age, but he's not in spirit. He's still like 18. He's still Ted. So I don't think he counts.
You know what? I've seen Militant 3. Yeah, he is.
Number 4. This is from Neon Kyle. Mads Mikkelsen being in this fucking awful movie is like if Gordon Ramsay decided to work at Burger King as a fry cook. 1 star. a great talent slumming in the bush leagues. I get it.
I really enjoy the love that Matt Mikkelsen has gotten across the board, though. I love that everyone else is like, yes, and is like, this guy's awesome. You love him.
There was not a single bad thing said about him in the Letterboxd reviews for this movie. Everything was like, this movie sucks, but he was pretty good. Like there's always a little bit of positive feedback for him.
I just love the large love that this guy has, like to the point that he could say what he said about method acting. We went, yeah, you're right, man. You're absolutely right.
We love him. And this last one is a bit of a joke for you history buffs out there that I thought was really funny. This is from Anthony. It's movies like this that make me want to go back in time and kill the Lumiere brothers. 0.5 star. And for those of you who don't know, the Lumiere brothers are the guys who invented movies. So go back in time and kill them so we don't have to deal with this.
Let's calm down.
So that's what's in the box. A lot of hatred for Polar, but a lot of love for Mads Mikkelsen.
A lot of love for him because he's awesome, but also understandably because he does fuck in this movie.
Yep, he hangs dong.
He hangs on. A lot of love in that regard. You know what? Respect, because that is love at a man in his like 50s now, and oh yeah.
Yep, and he was going at it like a champ. I praise.
Man can fuck, apparently. His wife is probably a very happy woman.
Ah, boy. Polar. What a gas.
Yeah. Well, let's close the book on Polar. Be done with this. And hopefully never be done with Mads Mikkelsen. We'll just actually talk about good movies he's in next time.
That would be nice.
But before I reveal what's going on next week and get that ready, all the fun social media stuff. So you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at FILMGAZM Productions. If you want to share us a recommendation, ideally, if you have anything you want us to talk about next year, the schedule is so wide open for those 12 months. So feel free to email us at filmgazm@gmail.com. If you'd like to donate and support us in that way, you can find us on Anchor. And then finally, feel free to go on our site, filmgazm.com, for reviews, trailers, articles, and all of our episodes. Next week, we will be talking about the 1976 version of one of the all-time American classic films, King Kong. And it's super fitting that I announced this today because we finally got confirmation that Kong versus Godzilla versus Kong 2 is happening. Adam Wingard directing it, working title. So fitting that I get to announce this as we record this on the same day that got announced. So hell yeah.
Nice. Yeah, this is the King Kong that my parents grew up with. And they've always told me that it's, a fun movie, but I'm like, no, it probably was when you were a kid, but not anymore. So this is the most critically reviled version of King Kong made yet. So
I know. Yeah, I know it has a pretty good cast, like Jessica Lange, like a young Jessica Lange is in the movie. For those of you who don't know, watch her fucking perform ass around everyone else in the American Horror Story series. The main one, not Horror Stories, the spinoff, but American Horror Story.
And playing our Adrian Brody is Jeff Bridges. So pretty cool.
Yeah. So hell of a cast for its time. So I'm definitely curious. It's been one I've been wanting to watch. Actually, I played it and I was like, yeah, I've been wanting to watch this anyway. So I'm actually kind of excited for this one. I'm like, I just sat through a Polar, hopefully. On FILMGAZM, I'm happy to say that they'll, not me, be looking. That's right. Pressure's on, Colton. They'll be looking at the Shudder exclusive from earlier in this year, for the sake of Vicious. A movie that I remember thinking, it's decent. Has its moments, but has things I'm not going to talk about now that kind of hold it back from being a good movie.
Well, I'll try.
Yeah. And then on Oscar Sunday, I actually finally looked up the film on Wikipedia so I could say a little bit more than I usually do. On Oscar Sunday, they'll be looking at 1949 film noir, The Third Man. I remember the Wikipedia this time, so I don't sound like a complete jackass.
I appreciate the effort. Thank you. But yeah, The Third Man, classic film noir, Orson Welles, directed by Carol Reed, I believe. We're very excited to watch this one. Always nice to tackle film noir. It's a genre that has kind of just died, and I never understand why. It's such a great genre.
It's died, but we've been seeing it kind of find ways into newer films. Like obviously, The Batman was very influenced by film noir, big time. So the genre itself has definitely died, but you're still seeing it pop up in various ways. Luckily,
I'd love a resurgence. Like a modern black and white Sam Spade movie with like John Hamm as like a Humphrey Bogart type character. That would be cool.
Get someone like Robert Eggers on it or something.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Yeah. But I was getting tired of like not knowing what the fuck movie I'm talking about when I got to you guys' show. So I was like, let me actually sound like I took like the 5 minutes it takes to just Wikipedia or IMDb. And that's what I did.
Not gonna lie, I could tell. Some weeks I was like, he doesn't know what the fuck this is.
No, there's so many weeks. No, sorry, Austin. There's so many weeks. I'm just like, I don't know what.
That show has a very niche crowd. We get it. We know what we're doing. Is what it is.
Yeah. And I figured it would look better because I know, to Austin's credit, he is always he's very supportive of my picks. When I listen to the Oscar Sundays on a film I've seen, he's always very like supportive and seemingly very impressed with my schedule for this show. So
yeah, he thinks it's amazing that you can watch these horrible movies and have the energy to talk about them at length.
I've learned it's an art in and of itself.
You're not wrong.
So I figured I could show a little respect and actually just look up the fucking genre of film you guys are talking about. So there you go. Film noir, 1949, Third Man, Oscar Sunday. With that, until then, be careful when you decide to retire from the life of being a hitman and make sure the company you work for isn't wanting your pension. See you next week on Beyond the Bad.
Always read the fine print, amigo.